So this is a Tesla Model X, and that is all the doors open at once, right? Now, I'm going to review this car, and I might not be that easy on it. I really need to show you why this car is nearly 160,000 euros. And why it's able to do all that, and so much more than I expected. So hit the subscribe button, we'll find out why this is the most practical electric car you can buy on the market today.
Please hang up and try again.
So I'm actually going to start this review at the trunk in the front, which is called the front trunk or the frunk, depending on how you... It's actually called front trunk by Tesla, right? So under here, where an engine would normally be, is a place to put things. Charging cables and... What's in that? That's the opening joke. What it's like. Some sort of a net device thing, sunshade or something like that, maybe for the kids in the back. And we have massively heavy, that's a granny cable with a CCS adapter. So you adapt the CCS plug into your normal plug, right? This is the stuff you get. Now this is an option, I think. I think this might be about 300 euro. But a granny cable and that, so you plug that into the CCS, you plug that into the car, and don't throw it away. So you plug this into the CCS end of things, and then you plug this into the car, and you can charge from a fast charge CCS using an adapter. Straightforward, huh? That's not the only thing in here. There's this. It's a tow bar. It's an actual full-size tow bar. Okay. Tow bar kit you put on yourself. Right, I wasn't expecting that one. Standard charging cable. And like first aid kit and jack and all that sort of stuff is in there too. So all that is in the frunk at the front of the car. Which is hard to close, Tesla. It just doesn't want to close. Anyway, let's have a look on the inside. See what's actually happening inside the cabin. Come on, come with me. By the way, side note, when you press the button on the door, it opens itself. Also closes itself when you get inside. Come on, we'll have a look and see how that works. The car is off at the moment, but in actual fact, that's just the motor underneath. The electrical system is still running, so I still have air conditioning turned on. And if you go into the air conditioning settings, you can actually change the climate control to tell it there's a dog inside the car. It's actually got a dog setting. Anyway, we're going to come back to that because this is a humongously complicated thing. Let's go look at the practicalities for a minute. Steering wheel, well, okay, so steering and this sort of switch gear and things is out of a Mercedes. So they're still out of Mercedes. You still have the same thing of having the windshield wipers being on this side and the gear stick being over here. No gear stick in the center at all. And I have a completely digital dash here, which allows me to be able to get at everything. I also have Sentry mode on this as well. I'll cover Sentry mode, possibly even in another video. It might require me to cover the Sentry mode, which is basically the whole car turns into a dash cam that's always on and being used the whole time. It records onto just a USB key straight onto your device so you can clear it off. I'll show you some clips of it now doing its job. So this one is the top spec ludicrous mode. Okay, so ludicrous plus mode. It has everything on it. So it has this carbon fiber sort of dash on it and this beautifully textured top to it. But that's, apart from the ludicrous mode, that's kind of all you get. The long range one is probably a better option for the more all round. The ludicrous one does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a couple of seconds, a little over a couple of seconds. The normal one goes just under 5 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, but you get extra kilometers out of that, right? But basically, after that, the rest is more or less the same. These seats are the most comfortable seats I have ever sat in a car of any kind. That's end of that statement. That's it. The most comfortable, end of story. Moving across here, I'll come to this, the full system of this in a minute ago, but right now I have only touch screen. So there is no physical controls for the heating or anything else. Everything is required in the touchscreen. Now, it's actually pretty logical and you can figure out what you're doing most of the time just from touching that little thing at the bottom. There is a phenomenal amount of controls you can get into in this machine. So you can open up a big menu like that and show all the car, and then you have music, and then you have other things like toy box and arcade. Yes, you can play video games on this screen. My kids were playing beach buggy racing last night, which you play using the proper steering wheel and the proper brake. It's phenomenal fun, and it does keep you occupied in the car. Obviously you can't do that when you're driving, but you can do it every other time. You can also get out the charge information here as well. I charged this last night overnight. It's at 91% charge. Now, I have used the supercharge. Supercharge is effortless, and I really do mean effortless. You drive up, you park the car, you just pull the plug up, the little port opens, you plug it in, and it charges 100 kilowatts per second, or 100 per minute, or whatever it is. Very, very fast charging anyway, which is fine. And you've seen it has a CCS adapter in the front, so you can charge at other things that aren't superchargers. Everything else is on a touchscreen, so phone, you can click in your Spotify, you can have tune in if you want there as well, you can have all that stuff, and it is on the net. Now, I don't know whether it's using its own SIM card or my SIM card or what it's got, but it's doing it nicely. It pulls down the information from Google SatNav, Google satellite navigation in total, and it means that they've changed over. They're using NVIDIA graphics card now, so it really is incredibly responsive when you go in and out. It loads that map relatively quick. I'm in a crap area here with bad signal, but it really does get straight into the point, and you can see everything on it instantaneously. And when you click on anything, it just comes up straight away. Flick in and out of anything you want there along the road. Now, over here is a glove box on that side, which is just perfect. And then, like I say, I had the most comfortable seats in the world. There is an armrest here in the middle, 2 cup holders and that. Then there's 2 giant sort of flexible cup holders that can take a bottle that size right there in the middle. Okay, just straight into that. Then you have some more covers and things. You can put your phone in here. You got 2 USB ports there, 12 volt socket beside that. One of the USB ports, if you're going to use Sentry mode, one of the USB ports becomes Sentry mode. It records to that USB port, which is quite nice. That does very well, actually. And then I have doors that can open and close and stuff. So when you go into, when you actually get into the car first, you have the option of closing the driver's door like that, right? Also, when you get in and you put your foot on the brake, so you get in first, you put your foot down the brake, the door closes anyway. You have to remember that, because my instinct whenever I get in the car is to put my foot down the brake instantaneously, and so you just go, whoa, the door's right beside you. One thing I will say is there's a massive glass. This whole thing is a windscreen. The whole thing, from the front of the car to the top up here. I thought this was going to bother me because there's no cover to pull down at any point, but somehow it doesn't. It's polarized. It seems to dim down darker as you're driving on the road. These are actual sunshades that go in up here. So you put them away like that. And then you have nothing. Nothing between you and the world. And then you pull out this little skinny thing. It looks like it came out of a convertible. And pull that out, and you've got a sunshade that goes up and down. It works. I thought this little strip is going to be stupid. But it does actually work. It's really good. I thought it was thick, but it looks great. And that's kind of the front seat until you get into this thing, okay? It is undoubtedly very luxurious feeling. It is every bit as good as what the competition are doing, including Audi and Mercedes and BMW and a whole lot, except it's 100% electric. Now, I'm going to get into prices and stuff afterwards, because this actually fits nicely into the middle of prices that everyone else is charging. Mercedes start off a little bit more reasonable, but they don't have the range near as much difference. The range is totally different. The Audi e-tron is more expensive than this, and this is bigger, and has more range, much more range. Can I just point out, this is over 500 kilometers range. You will achieve that if you're gentle on the accelerator. If you're not, you're going to do 450, say, somewhere in that region. It just gets on with it, right? So let's have a little look down here, and I'll come back. Again, I'll mention those prices along the way. I'll flash them up on the screen as well, because I've been looking at them very carefully, because there's a €5,000 grant in Ireland that distorts the prices here. It makes it seem like it's a lot cheaper than it is, but actually they're all about the same price. So this has autopilot on it as well. I'll show you that when we're driving on the motorway. You've got 2 versions of autopilot in this. Autopilot that is active cruise control. We've seen this before in pretty much all the cars that are on the market at the moment. You can get active cruise control. The car, when you flick it on, is basically following the lines in the road and it's following the speed of the car in front or the maximum speed you've set. So 120 kilometers an hour on the motorway, and then it just follows the yellow and white line the whole time. This has that as standard. You can go up to autopilot, which is a kind of a divisive name because it's not autopilot. It requires you to pay attention because it can be easily caught out. I have caught it out on a number of occasions. But autopilot means the car is doing more than just following the lines in the road. It's trying to actively see what's going on in front of it. It's trying to see the shape of roundabouts. It's trying to read the sat nav. It's doing a whole heap of things, right? And then once you get beyond that, you're into another thing that I have here called navigate on autopilot, which is beta. It's in a beta testing phase. It's very good. It does work. A little steering wheel appears on your sat nav as you're driving along, and that steering, when it appears, the car will drive itself technically. You have to keep your hands on the wheel in this country, but it drives itself effectively. And when it reaches the exit it's supposed to take, it will actually indicate and pull over and get off at that exit, and then it'll tell you the active cruise control is cutting off in 250, 100 meters, 50 meters, and then it knocks off and goes back to normal autopilot. Also, this car can change lanes on a motorway, so when you indicate, the car will look to see what's in the lane. It'll flip out and start changing lanes for you. It'll actually suggest you changing lanes at some point as well to get you out of the overtaking lane. It will suggest that. So all that's in here. All that is you're able to adjust an awful lot of that stuff. You can opt out of Navigate and Autopilot as well. You can turn it off so it's not there. Summon is also there. I haven't tried that because it requires an app, and I haven't got the app hooked up because this is a demo car. Also in here you can change the Falcon door height, how far those big doors at the back open up. So you can make them open lower if you want, or open as high as they can. You can get preconditioning for the air conditioning system will come on before you get near the car. All that sort of stuff is in there. Display, you got loads of things in here, but let's just go into something that's in here as well. So in our toy box, and yes, it does have a toy box, you can turn on some flames and have a lovely time. It's a fireplace. You want to sit in the back and enjoy and touch it again, and it plays a bit of music. I hope it doesn't play something that's copyrighted, but it's just showing you the music, kind of music it plays. And when you're fed up with that sort of thing, you just go back to your normal listing here. But that gives you an idea of the kind of stuff that they have. Oh, that's the arcade. I went back into the arcade again by mistake. Back into the toy box again for a second, and I'll show you. Yeah, right. This also does this. That was actually me. It farts. It farts on demand. It has a whoopee cushion. It's the best thing I've ever seen in the car. I mean, if you're going to have a car that costs over 100 grand, you might as well have a car that's able to fart as well. Also in here, I can turn on the Christmas dad dance thing. It does a dance. Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll cut to a clip of that right now. And yes, that goes on for a hell of a long time. And I really do mean it goes on for a long time. But it's embarrassing. If you want to set it up and start it up in a public square or something, feel free to do that. Loads of games and toys to play in here. There is now 1,404 kilometers on this car. I've done near as makes no difference, coming up on 1,000 kilometers this week in this car using the supercharger system that I have here in the town, or not in the town. It's down in Doro. No, Carroll. It's down the road. There's a supercharger. It's in your sat nav. It's there. I'm not going to go any deeper into that because we're going to show more of that stuff when we're on the drive. So let's have a look at what happens when you open the Falcon doors. Big tractor. Driver, open the Falcon door. Okay, so this is the back door opening. As you can see, it doesn't actually take that long to open. I see complaints online about how long it takes to open the door. It doesn't take anything to open the door. You're under a bloody umbrella when it's open as well. Plenty of room back here for 3 passengers in this seat. Easy peasy. Not keen on the white interior. I wouldn't go white. It's a bit too white, if you know what I mean. Now, disappointingly, in the back seat, I only have 2 USB ports. That's it. Some vent, but I've no way of controlling my own air conditioning back here, which is a little bit of a disappointment. I really wanted some switches here where the kids or the adults sitting in the back could control their own air conditioning. Now, I do like, when you're looking forward, you can see as far forward as the whole world because the entire windscreen comes down in here. Some lights here in the center. I would have preferred, again, the lights to be back here a little bit rather than nearly in the front. They should be here over these seats. And then there's another row of seats back here as well, but they've got their own vents and more LED lights. And closing this door is pretty straightforward. Just press a little button here and down she comes, and it's all very lovely. And when it's down, you have a very tinted window on this side which does open, and you have a little porthole above your head as well, which also you can see out into the world. It's a very, very pleasant place to be. Now, while the camera's running, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the back seats, because there's another row of seats behind these seats. The mechanism for moving the seats here is a bit rubbish, to be honest with you. Pull a handle here, rolls forward, pull that handle there, that drops down. But you still have to climb over the wheel arch. It's huge and sticks in. So, and no, as an adult, I'm not going to fit back here. No, no, not a 7-seat Tesla. Sorry, it's just not. I can't even get my foot straight. I'm not even sure I can get back out here. Anyway, we'll see. But no, this doesn't work at all as a 6 or 7 seat. Maybe that's how you get out. And I'm scuffing the wall here. Oh, that's really badly laid out there, Tesla. You really need to hire me. No, you need to hire a seat specialist. Come and talk to you about the machine, the mechanics behind moving this stuff around. That's a big letdown. Those 2 seats back there, that's a big letdown. There's got to be a better way, is there? It really does just drop down like that. It doesn't roll forward or fold forward or twist forward or nothing. Anyway, so the 2 rear seats are useless to you. Forget about it. Let's have a look at the boot. So these doors don't take very long to open and close. Like, they don't. You don't stand there watching it. It just closes on its own. That's not slow. It's definitely not slow to open. So here's the boot. So all my backpack stuff fits in here. As you can see, with all 7 seats in place, you get some kids into the back of the seats, but even with everything in place here, I still have plenty of room in this boot. To drop these seats, you just press a little button on the top and then push, and it goes down into the floor, and again with a little button, it drops the headrest and down into the floor, and now you have a much bigger boot entirely, a huge boot. But there are a caveat to that, a lot of spaces and gaps and things where stuff is just going to roll into. So we need a cover over that of some sort, but maybe you might never use it, might use it whatever way you want to use it, but I do find there's lots of spaces and things where little hands will roll away into, little bits and pieces you carry around the boot of the car the whole time will just fall into those gaps. Under here is a whole other boot, can I just point out, a trunk. I mean, forget it, there's just so much space down there. You can easily put probably a month's worth of shopping under the floor of this and still have all the 7 seats in place. It's the biggest boot comparatively than anything else on the market, without a doubt. Okay. A quick word before we leave the boot on charging. It has a big battery. Big batteries take a long time to charge, however you want to charge them. Whether you charge them at home or charge them on the fast charge, charge them on a supercharger, they still take a while to charge. Supercharger takes about an hour to charge this half full. Okay, so if you start with about 50% battery, around about an hour will get you back up to full 100% again, okay? A home charger, which is fitted by EV Box and Mulher Electrical here in Portlaoise, that will take an overnight charge to get you about half full again. So if you're half empty, you put it in, maybe 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours, somewhere around that, and it's going to be full. These are real world charging. I have tested this myself. Do not debate me in the comments. Not going to work. 22 kilowatt charger, this will take normal one on the street. So if you go to a fast charging unit, if you don't have the CCS adapter, you just plug in the normal charger to one side of it, which means a fast charge can be given to somebody else. That'll take a couple of hours, 3-4 hours or so to get the thing back up to full again. Charging is effortless on this. I have to say, much easier than I thought it was going to be. It really doesn't require that much charging because it's such a big car in the first place. Right, let's get into the front and get some driving done. Okay, so we're going to go for a drive, right? So the minute you put your foot in the brake pedal, the door closes and it asks you for a pin to start the car. Now you can disable that, you can do other stuff. The little key looks like a little Tesla. And if you touch the various points on the key, you double click to unlock and unlock the car, you can start the car. Now it's started, right? So it doesn't make any noise. The key is very good, very losable, I reckon, very losable. So besides the losable keys, there's nowhere to put that. You basically do everything else. Oh, drive not authorized, key not detected. Weird. Oh, you got a problem. Okay, we done now? Yes. So sometimes you have to double click the key to make it work. Very security conscious car. But I suppose, you know what, the keypad thing, it's so big. You can see someone typing in that keypad miles away. But bright and airy cabin is absolutely delicious in this car. I have to say, it's such a lovely place to be. Just pottering along the road is really pleasant because that sun doesn't get too strong on the top of the cabin, even though it's glass all the way back over my head here. So the pros of this car is suspension and comfort. I just want to point it out. This is probably the most comfortable car I've driven in decades. Suspension is second to none. It literally cushions out speed bumps like they don't exist. I'm on this, if you're a regular viewer, and you should be a regular viewer at this point. If you're not, you just click the subscribe button. But if you're a regular viewer, you'll see me driven this road multiple times, and sometimes the camera goes, other times the camera barely moves. And right now, I'm on the roughest part. It's my test road, this one. If a car survives a suspension test along here, it's a good car. And this car is just cushioning that out. I cannot feel those bumps in any major shape, way, or form. Cons. Now, one con I keep seeing coming up when I look at Model X is the price of it. It's actually dropped down in price quite a bit. If you look at a Audi e-tron, which has a much shorter range, now it's more luxurious than this, not by much, but just a little bit. Here and there, it's just touches of, we are a car company, we know what we're doing. This car starts out more affordable than the Audi e-tron. So this one starts out something like 94 grand, something like that. It's not extraordinarily priced, I'll put it that way. And it has a very long range. This is a very long range car. That is the long range one I'm quoting the price of there. This one that I'm sitting in is the ludicrous mode one. This one isn't as long a range, but it does have that ludicrous speed mode that you see people testing so often. Now you'll very quickly get sick of that. You will. And you probably stick it in just sport or chill. Chill is like this mode I'm in right now, which when you put your foot down, it just accelerates like a normal car, if I'm honest. And when you put it in sport mode, which is just a matter of clicking on this, and then you go into driving, and then you go sport. And it's in sport mode now, so it's faster when you accelerate. And if you go into ludicrous mode, well, it's kind of ludicrous actually, it's unnecessary. And there's even a ludicrous plus mode, which is faster again. That requires a dry surface road and a warmed up battery. That's the two things. And you get that 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in like exorbitantly stupid amount of time. It's lovely when you're pulling away from the traffic lights and there's someone beside you and you don't like to look at them or whatever, you can get yourself out of there in this car quick, really quick, like extra fast. It's scarily fast in fairness sometimes. Now, size. Let's just think about size of this vehicle for a minute, because this car, I parked it in Lidl last night, and I parked right beside a Ford Ranger. Ford Ranger, this is a pickup truck, okay? And here's the picture. You see my point? This is a big car. It may look like a bulked up 5-door hatchback, but it's actually a very big car when you're driving. It feels big, it feels broad on the road. The little radar screen there is doing its best to try and see where the road is and what's going on. It shows you two little lines to show me the car in front of me, even though I have no active cruise control turned on or anything. Nothing turned on at the moment, just me driving. Seating position, perfect, 10 out of 10. Steering wheel thickness, perfect, 10 out of 10. Easily the same thickness as something out of BMW. And I notice that I'm mentioning this car in the same breath now as BMW, Mercedes, Audi, because that's where I'm thinking. That's where I'm thinking this car actually fits in. It's at the entry level, a little bit more affordable than an Audi e-tron, right? Just at the entry level. It escalates quickly, don't make no mistake. This one that I'm sitting in on the road will be much closer to 150 grand. It'll be up that direction because this one has bigger wheels, has ludicrous mode put onto it as well. It's black, don't buy it in black. I know some of you love black cars, lads, but they're very hard to keep clean. Oh, I'd get a blue one maybe. I can actually see myself driving this around the place all the time with the kids in it, dropping kids off to school. The big problem I have is there's 2 seats back there and they're relatively useless. The ones at the very last row. You'd want to have very small kids with no legs or something, you know. Really, really, really an oversight. I would really love to talk to the engineers, sit down with the seating designers, the interior designers of this car and go, hang on a second, you could make a really good family hatchback. You just give yourself like 2 mils more here and there. And that's what it comes down to. It really is that small a space we're talking about there. Now a word on Sentry mode, which is also in this car. Sentry mode is in one of the latest updates that they've got from Tesla. By the way, your car will update over the air. So some evening you'll plug it in, have a charge, and you walk back out and you've got different software on the car. It's got fairly constant updates. As far as I know, you have the option to take those updates or not. You don't have to have them all, and it tells you specifically what's in each update. Actually on the motorway is where we're going to try something else, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to navigate to Portlaoise.
Drive northwest for 10 meters.
Okay, so we're coming onto the motorway here. And I'm going to join the motorway. I'm going to increase my... Whoa. I'm going to just crush the air out of your body. Do that. That's so funny. It's like being sat on by a big truck or something. Anyway, so I'm going to go to motorway speed. I'm going to engage, first of all, active cruise control, which is 120 kilometers an hour. Now, I'm steering, the car is maintaining the distance to the car in front of me. But now I'm going to activate, navigate on autopilot, and full autopilot control. There she goes. So now, I'm going to let the car do the rest here, right? It's telling me that I can change lanes, so I'm going to do that for you, right? So I indicate and I don't do anything else. I just sit here, my hands near the wheel, and the car will eventually, I've just got to tell it that I'm still here, the car will eventually change lanes for me. There it is, changing lanes from one to the other, and it does it perfectly well. Now, it's hoovering along the road here, and it's going to look after the next part of this for me as well. So I am using navigate on autopilot right now. My hands are on the wheel, I am maintaining full contact with the road, I'm not taking any chances here. I do note that the car stays a little bit too far on the left of the lane, just a fraction too far left in the overtaking lane. In the driving lane it's doing okay, but I just find myself feeling very close to trucks on that side of the car. Now as we hoover along the road here, I'll note something else for you. The tyre roar and loudness of the car increases considerably on motorways. And I suspect the reason behind that is there's a cavitation happening in the frunk, at the front of the car, that the noise of the tyres has been reflected into the cavity where the engine would be normally hanging out, and it's been reflected back into the cabin here with me. Some road noise is up around the edge of the door here, but the vast majority of it is coming from in front of me. So it's coming from the front of the car. The rear of the car is okay. I'd forgive it, to be honest with you. It's not terribly noticeable, but you do have to find you're shouting at the kids behind you when you're driving along the road. So I'm going to change lanes back into the driving lane as I've overtaken that car there. Now I'm back into the driving lane and the car is going to continue. Now, a couple of other factors worth noting. I would, being honest with you, trust this car to drive with no hands on the wheel. I think I would. It's very good. It's very competent. It's very obviously minding the entire road and watching everything that's going on. I can quite clearly see there's another car on the outside lane out there, as well as this car that's in front of me, and you can see it on the radar here. The LiDAR works on this incredibly well. Some things that doesn't quite work out is like when you're overtaking, it's very deliberately slow about doing. That's okay. When it rains, it can't do the.
Take exit 17 on the left toward North 77. There.
Now it's telling me what to do next, but in actual fact, the car is going to make that maneuver for me. Okay, so we're coming up to our exit here. Now, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to help it. I'm just going to let it do this bit for me. What I'm talking about here is navigate on autopilot. Something a little bit different we've added this year. What it means is the car is going to take the exit for me. It's figuring out what exit to take. It's 700 meters from here. I'm watching the exit. I'm watching to make sure there's nothing on the exit. No problem coming up here. I'm going to keep my hands on the wheel and make sure it's doing it. It's braking. It's indicating. It's maneuvering into the lane. It's maneuvered into the exit. It's stopped the indicator.
Exit 17 on the left.
And it's continuing driving. And now it's dropping its speed. So it's coming to the exit. That's the end of the active navigate on autopilot. It tells you that it's finishing there. That is an amazingly accurate thing. It's actually doing its job very, very well. I'm not going to subtract any ideas from that. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It does its job brilliantly, and I would, in actual fact, trust that car to do all that on its own. The only thing that stops it here in this country is laws. We have a law that it says that you must keep your hands on the wheel at all times. That's not the law. The law is you must be in control of your vehicle at all times, which effectively means you must keep your hands on the wheel at all times, which means you can't let the active cruise control do its thing. You have to maintain contact with the wheel at all times. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I hope you've learned enough about the Tesla Model X in this video. If you haven't, leave a comment down below. If you have and you've got more questions, leave a comment down below. You can support this channel in many ways. The main one, of course, is to subscribe to the channel. It's very important. But if you can support this channel by hitting the PayPal button or the Patreon button or any of these buttons down below there, it'll be an absolute joy to have you on board. Hopefully, I will see you for the next video. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side.